Welcome to the first episode of a brand new series where I show you guys some fan-made concepts of OSRS content. In today's episode, we're going to travel deep into the ancient city of Keldagrim, where a familiar dwarf sends us on a mission to help him win an annual liquor tasting competition. This quest also introduces a brand new item to the game, the Dwarf Cask Fountain. This is RuneCreations. This video is made purely for fun, with the purpose of creating discussions for some potential new ideas we would like to see in the game. So, before we talk about the quest, let's talk about the reward. The Dwarf Cask Fountain serves as liquid storage for 24 doses of any sippable potion or brew that may be used by multiple players. Players may use this fountain to take a sip, fill their own vials, or fill it up with one type of potion. This is mostly encouraged to be used in most group-based PvM content, acting as a more supportive variant to the Dwarf multi-cannon. You set it up just like the Dwarf cannon, with the stand, the barrel, the spigot, and the pump taking up 4 spaces in your inventory. Players may start this quest by speaking to Blandbeer at the Laughing Miner pub in East Keldagrim. There is a very prestigious liquor brewing competition coming up very soon on the surface of Gielinor, which seems to be building up to a failure for Blandbeer, as he lacks the equipment needed to carry the glorious booze his family has been working on for several generations. He stresses to the player that the hardware must be Dwarven made and capable of maintaining the temperature of his very fragile liquor. Otherwise, the liquid contents would rot and the panel of judges would be upset, ruining years and years of his hard work. If you agree to help, we will find our way over to White Wolf Tunnel to speak to Khorvak, the dwarf engineer, asking if he may help create a blueprint for the portable liquor-bearing container. He agrees to help the player, but only if we bring him some Kelda Stout. You may remember this from Forgettable Tale of a Drunken Dwarf, where we had to brew the drink in order for a drunken dwarf to help us. In that quest, we kind of borrow a Kelda seed from Khorvak, and we don't really return it. I hope I won't be on Runewatch tomorrow. We must now return to Keldagrim and recreate the infamous drink in order to persuade the engineer to design the blueprint for us. Blandbeer gives us the seeds, and we get to work on brewing some Kelda Stout. When the task is completed, you return to Khorvak with the drink. He immediately downs it, and is no longer capable of assisting us due to the effects of the Kelda Stout. He's blacked out drunk. This leads us to having to find a way to sober Khorvak up in order for him to complete our blueprint. We figure our best lead is probably the drunken dwarf, who seems to be quite an experienced drinker. After a long and drunken monologue, he tells the player that raw chompy eggs are actually very useful to cure the effects of a Kelda Stout. The player must now create an ultimate hangover cure for the blacked out dwarf, as created before in Plague City, combining a bucket of milk, chocolate dust, snape grass, and the extra ingredient, a raw chompy egg. In order for us to retrieve a raw chompy egg, we must venture to Felda Hills and create a chompy nest, set it on the ground, and wait for a chompy to lay an egg inside of it. Once this has been done, combining the ingredients will yield one ultimate hangover cure. Returning to White Wolf Tunnel and using the cure on Khorvak, he will begin to slowly sober up through his dialogue until you're able to once again comprehend him. Khorvak would inform the player that he is a man of his word, then begin sketching a design for the Dwarf Cask Fountain. The player retrieves the blueprints and is sent to gather the materials needed to build the liquor-bearing container. 2 blue-right bars, any nails, and a special type of wood, only found in the deep north. I figured I would call them icebark trees. The wood of an icebark tree is known to have various cooling properties, exactly what we need to help keep Blandbeer's liquor fresh. In order to retrieve this special wood, the player must gear up, venture to northern Gielinor, defeat the Ice Guardian, and chop an icebark tree for its logs. The player must also mine 2 ores of blue-right from the Asgardian Ice Dungeon, turning them into blue-right bars. And that concludes all the materials we need to build this thing. We go back to Khorvak as a short cutscene plays where we assist the engineer as he builds the cask fountain. After that, we go back to Blandbeer with the pieces of the cask fountain, and that concludes our quest with a longer cutscene of every major bar in Gielinor competing before a panel of judges. Congratulations, you've now completed Dwarf Fountain, gaining a bunch of XP for the respective skills, as well as access to the Dwarf Cask Fountain. Closing up the video with some final thoughts here, this is just an early stage concept, meaning there's tons of possible ways to rework and adjust this idea. The initial idea with the quest was to tie up a bunch of NPCs that don't really serve a major purpose to the player beyond their involvement in previous quests. For the fountain, there may be a huge balancing issue here. Extending trips at certain bosses would be too much of a strong boost, seeing as PVM content is currently regarded as the best GP per hour anyway. Is 24 doses considered too much? This could be adjusted to a number that works best and won't seem too overpowered. I was thinking 24, but we could go down to 20 or 16 perhaps. Avoiding theft and abuse. I wanted the fountain to be accessible strictly by friends or clan members. Anyone else who tries to use it will get a message that they aren't allowed to. Upkeep for fountain. This is the most important detail here. While cannons are generally great at getting some easy ranged XP, there is a drawback, as the ammo is usually quite expensive when purchased at higher volumes. A few solutions for this could be creating a secondary item, such as a specific oil needed to be used onto the fountain, otherwise it would stop working. I also thought about the idea of having to carry around fire spells, occasionally casting one onto the fountain to keep the liquids from freezing over. Let me know if you have any ideas for how this could all work, or whether or not there is a need for an item like this within the current space of OSRS anyway. Thank you everyone for watching this video all the way through. This was by far the geekiest video I've ever made, but I really enjoyed making it. If you want to see more videos like this in the series, be sure to let me know with a thumbs up. Take it easy.